Hello, everyone, and welcome to another edition of the Royals Rundown podcast. Thank you so much for tuning in. This show, as always, is brought to you by the one and only RoyalsReview.com, your one-stop shop for all things Kansas City Royals. Whether you need to know about the latest news, hottest prospects, or want to chat with other rabid Royals fans, still don't know about the vaccine for Royals fans, but alas, you can find it at royalsreview.com. I am Jacob Milham, and I am joined this fine Wednesday evening by the one and only Jeremy Greco. Jeremy, happy midweek, but also happy last midweek episode before opening day.
No, we have one more.
But it comes out on opening day. So
Yeah.
I'm trying to bridge the gap to opening day, man. I'm ready for it.
I am also ready. I was writing the game thread and the recap for Sunday's game and realizing this is the last week of spring training. Next week, Monday, Tuesday, they face the Rangers in exhibition matches that are not spring training, but also don't count. And then they come home and they host the Cleveland Guardians. I don't know why I said it with that accent. Guardians.
Well, I mean, they are right on the northern edge of the country, if you will, and those folks up north do have some funny ways of saying words.
I should watch Major League again.
Ooh, yes, always a good watch. Hey, listen,
I'll watch that tonight after we podcast.
Perfect. If you like what we're doing here or are just a Kansas City Royals fan in general, please follow or subscribe to the podcast. We are available on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and Good Pods, wherever you get your podcasts from. If you want to continue the conversation with us, honestly, one of the good spots to do it is on Spotify. It's really inconvenient to answer comments, but you have the ability to comment on there. And I had someone comment on the last episode with a question, and I was just able to respond right there. And bada bing, bada boom.
See the comments.
It is, you got to jump through some hoops. But if you don't want to jump through those hoops, you could jump through some social media hoops. Our links are down in the podcast description below, or you can shoot me an email, which is also down in the podcast description. So, Jeremy, we do have a few things to talk about today. Opening day, what our listeners need to know. I get it. It would probably make more sense to go through this on Sunday, but I'm hoping that we get a good turnout on our opening week extravaganza, if you will. We've tried to make it a big deal in the past couple of years about having other Royals writers and creators and things like that weigh in with their preseason predictions. Now that I'm not even going to say the roster is settled, but there's a lot more
settled.
It's pretty damn close to settled. There's a lot more variables still in play ahead of spring training.
I have to say, I've spent all of spring training going, what if the Royals didn't pick the guys that they're obviously going to pick? What if John Rave made the team? What if Gavin Cross made the team? What if Jack Caglione made the team? And the Royals said, what if we demoted all three of those guys at the same time?
What if we just dashed your dreams?
All of them simultaneously.
They get paid the big bucks to make these calls, not us. We just talk about them, right?
As friend of the podcast, gosh, I forgot his name. Lux. As friend of the podcast, Lux tweeted at me. He feels like the Royals were specifically trying to spite me by demoting all three of those guys simultaneously.
And I can see where Lux was getting that from. So Lux commented on the episode after my review. It was like, yeah, the uncensored Hell's Kitchen is the way to go for watching Hell's Kitchen. So I'm not crazy out there. I guess I just like expletives. I am a sailor at the end of the day.
What they tell me.
I am. Let's see here. I was wanting to pull up the comment so I could shout it out. Just show folks the process. So Bill Roush, I think I'm saying that last name right. Bill commented, are there any left-right pitcher stats on Renfroe and Melendez's performance in spring training that would show the value of platooning them? Because that's something that we spoke about on the last episode, that might be the way the Royals go out in right field with India playing left. I was pleasantly surprised with what I found with Renfroe so far this spring. He had a 1914 OPS versus left-handed pitchers, only 9 ABs, but 5 hits in that span, and his home run was against a left-handed pitcher. Meanwhile, MJ, he's had some good moments this spring, but it's been pretty cool from him overall. A 789 OPS against righties, 10 strikeouts in 36 at-bats. Like, not a... I mean, he's been very aggressive. I would say. If he's still trying to work through this new swing, I get it. But just the stat line isn't super supportive of a full platoon between those two, I would say, Jeremy.
Well, I would also say that spring training doesn't tell you everything, and that
Doesn't.
if you look at their last season stats, it does support a platoon.
Okay. There we go. Maybe that's something I need to look into before the season starts a little bit more. But we are
Not that
very
we're gonna
much
get it. It doesn't matter because they're both gonna start
on opening day.
because there's no one else to play.
No,
Because they
there really
demoted
isn't.
all the interesting outfielders.
Jeremy, they have to keep things boring to start off the year. Okay, they have to keep us excited. Come on, man.
Can I
I will
just
say,
can I
go
just
ahead.
interrupt and say
Please
when
do.
I put out my last season preview, I put up, Gavin Cross should platoon with Hunter Renfroe to start the year. And someone said, we can't rush Gavin Cross to the big leagues. He only played in Double A last year. I don't want another Adalberto Mondesi. I'm planning an article about this, but the quick idea here is Adalberto Mondesi, when he was promoted, was 20 years old. 20 years old, had never played above Double A, and had never had success offensively at any level when he became a big league player. He was a good defender, he was fast, and he had a lot of tools, but he'd never had success. That's rushing a prospect. Gavin Cross is 24. He has had success at every level he's played at, including college. Yes, he had a little bit of a down year in 2023, but that was explained with the Rocky Mountain spotted fever. If you promote him directly from A, it is a very different thing from Adalberto Mondesi. Also, these guys are used to failure. We've talked about this. Yogi Berra has talked about this. Everybody is. Baseball is a game, first and foremost, of failure and how you respond to failure. Because even the best hitters get on base less often than they don't get on base, other than Barry Bonds, like 1 year. It's just the way it goes. So you promote a guy. If he doesn't succeed, that doesn't mean his career is ruined. It means, all right, let's figure this out. We move on to the next thing, bounce back. If his prospect's success potential for success is ruined by an initial failure at the big league level, then he was never going to succeed.
Yeah,
Because he's going to face failure at the big league level at some point. Anyway,
really for every single and it doesn't always come right out of the gate for every prospect
there's
like
this
that.
whole thing called the sophomore slump.
Yeah, the sophomore slump. And I'm sorry, we all know how long the baseball season is. Like, we have seen even the most seasoned veterans. Like, I remember they're talking on the broadcast, Salvador Perez last year. I think he had like an 0 for 26 run
I think
in the
Bobby
middle
Witt
of
had
last
an
year.
over 8 run or something at one point too.
Well, he's just absurd. We don't talk about Bobby Witt. Well, we do actually. Even Salvi, who, he's flawed. We all love him though. He was even able to dig out of that and still have a good overall season. So, I mean, I get it. A prospect does. I think the word I'm looking for is resilience, like that mental and physical resilience, because it's easy to focus on the physical side of it. And it takes a lot of stamina to go through an entire season. I don't think it was a Royals player, but I was reading somewhere where a player was talking about the end of spring training, and he was saying like, yeah, we're kind of like at the point where we're just done with spring training and we're a little worn out. And then he pivoted real quick. It was like, but well, we need to be ready for the whole season. So we have to refocus. So yeah, it's not going to be all roses for every single prospect. And even the most, I would say, middling talents at the major league level can carve out very lengthy careers because they have mental resilience. Just look at Adam Frazier.
Yeah,
Anywho.
the mental resilience is a key in any profession, honestly, but especially professional sports, and in professional sports, especially in baseball.
Yeah. Yep. I agree with that. And hey, speaking of some of the mental side of the game, I did think it was cool. So from Underdog Fantasy Slab Lab show, they sat down with Cole Ragans for a little bit, and Cole spoke about some of his preparation ahead of starts. And he's talking about like these notebooks that he's accumulated from like AA, AAA, his time in the majors, and just how he prepares against batters. And it's not always, it's easy to think it's just like loading up MLB The Show. You just go out there, you know your stuff, and you pitch. He's looking at heat maps. He's looking at pitch sequencing, things like that, to really make the most of his time. And that's another thing that will extend a talent's career at the major league level, really just focusing.
My big takeaway from that was people talk about these guys are getting paid millions of dollars to play a kid's game. That's exactly how they all sound.
Of course.
That's not what they're getting paid millions of dollars for. Got to tell you, they're getting paid millions of dollars to work out at insane rates that most of us wouldn't consider. They're getting paid millions of dollars to learn and study. These guys, you can't be a professional athlete. There's this idea that jocks are dumb, but you can't be a professional athlete without being really smart now. You have to be able to understand these advanced statistics and these heat maps and all this stuff so that you know what you should do next in order to succeed. If you're a dumb jock, you're not going to succeed at professional sports. These guys are working their butts off and they're doing it 3 times as much in the minor leagues. So anytime you're tempted to say that, oh, these guys get paid millions of dollars to play a kid's game, I would like that. Would you also like to spend hours every day studying charts and learning statistics and applying them to real life scenarios? Because that's part of the job too.
It is. And I, for one, as I'm about to start learning R and Python a little bit more, am going to be spending a lot of time looking at charts and data. So I'll see how that goes for me. My brain was a little bit jello, Jeremy, because I went to the online version of the Sabre Analytics Conference over the weekend, and I was good during the student portion, and then folks started talking about the biometrics and the neurological aspect of the game, and I'm like, this is over my head. I just stopped taking notes. I'm like, I don't even know what to write anymore. Can we go back to talking about proper FWAR calculations or something like that?
I remember I was taking physics in college, and the physics professor, as kind of a fun physics moment, was like, let's look at Aroldis Chapman and all the torque he has to use to get his pitches up over 100 miles per hour. Like, tons of physics and biomechanics in making that happen.
Yeah.
These guys throwing 100 miles an hour, the reason they didn't do it 20 years ago, 30 years ago, 40 years ago, they didn't know how. It's not, I mean, these guys in some cases, in a lot of cases, are stronger, but they're not throwing 100 miles an hour because of raw muscle. They're doing it because they understand the science behind it.
Yeah, and that was an interesting part that I think Cole backed up a little bit. Is there's still a little bit, it's not as animalistic as it once was. There's still a little bit of tribalism versus like old school baseball and analytics based baseball. I definitely think that what we consider analytics, players are looking at, and they do ingest that information. And it's not just well, I don't care that this lefty batter is really good at hitting changeups high in the zone. I'm really good at striking out people with changeups high in the zone. I'm going to go stuff versus stuff. No, let's figure out a smarter way to play the game. And they're just also having smarter approaches to their entire career.
I mean, there's absolutely an element sometimes of gamesmanship of like, well, yeah, he does crush the changeups up in the zone, but that means he's not going to, he knows that I know it, so I'm going to throw one. He's going to think I'm going to not do that. So there's still gamesmanship involved. It's not all science, but also like, this is another thing that I kind of peeled away from what you were just saying is like, yeah, we look at all these advanced statistics and people be like, oh, we didn't have batting average was good enough for us in those days. Well, yeah, guess what? We're barely scratching the surface of what the teams and the players are looking at.
Yeah, exactly. Like, we're just looking at publicly available data. It's folks underestimate, like you see all those cameras when you go to Kauffman Stadium, they're pointed at the field for a reason. Like they're not security cameras watching what you're doing around the stadium. They're capturing data, capturing metrics, and the teams are, I wouldn't say hoarding it, but there are some data points that we don't know if it matters or not yet. Like, I'm sure teams were tracking this bat speed stuff for years, and they just didn't know if it matters or not. But it's better to have it and not need it than need it and not have it. So it's an interesting time to be watching baseball with a critical eye. I also just think it's an interesting time to be a fan of baseball because this opening Tokyo series has been great. It's been 2 very talented teams, and I think I was reading The Long Game. It's a Substack from Molly Knight, and she's there in Tokyo, and she's had a great like boots on ground view of this is a historic, exciting thing for the baseball fans in Japan, and this is a big deal. And I don't think baseball fans are giving it enough credence, if you will. Jeremy, have you been invested at all in these opening 2 games of the season?
A really hard time getting into the games because it's like spring training is still happening so many
Fair.
places. It's like, is this for real? And you know, those guys are on pitch limits. I know I was reading like from the first game, they only went like 4 innings, the starting pitchers did, because they're still on spring training pitching limits. Like, I love the idea of let's expand baseball's appeal globally because it is dying in the United States.
Yes.
But you know, it's not dying quickly. It's not like it's gonna end next year, but the long-term thinking would be like, yes, let's expand our influence because our influence is not where it has been historically. Anyway, so I love this idea, and it's very cool to see, you know, especially in Japan where baseball is already such a big deal, and to send Shohei Otani back over there, and Roki Sasaki, and Yamamoto, and Imanaga, you know, all
Mhm.
these guys, and it's a great time. And so many of our stars are Japanese now. Have you thought about that?
I think I underestimated the star power that Japanese ball players have right now in MLB.
Yeah. And it's, you know, 10 times as much in Japan, where it kind of not to this comparison is not to say that Japanese baseball is like minor league baseball, but when you see a guy at your local minor league stadium and you watch him and then he goes on to the big leagues and you're like, oh, he made it big. That was my guy. I knew him before he was big, you know? So they kind of have that same thing going on. These guys are huge. Shohei Otani, one of the biggest stars in the world. People, I think you talk about underestimating Japanese star power in MLB. Shohei Otani, I think Americans are underestimating his star power, period.
Yeah.
Like, he has worldwide star appeal. It's astonishing. So MLB has got to be like that guy. Pay attention to that guy as much as they possibly can. Like, do the Taylor Swift cam for Shohei Otani, okay?
And do them all the time in the dugout, no matter
Yeah,
who's at the. And
exactly.
yeah, it was a smart business move, and I've enjoyed it as a start to the season. I think this one was a little less jarring than the South Korea series, because the South Korea series, if I recall correctly, was like 2 full weeks before opening day. Like, there's a good chunk of spring training still to go. At least right now there's what, like 4 spring exhibition plus spring training games left for teams. But Eddie, we are way off track, Jeremy, already.
No, not us.
Never. It could never be us. I brought up
At
Cole
least we're talking
Ragans.
about baseball.
We are. At least we're talking about baseball. I guess that is a redeeming factor of this. So the reason why I brought up Cole Ragans initially was because, to very little surprise, he was announced as Kansas City's opening day starter. Once again, it has to be a great feeling to be announced as an opening day starter once, but to do it in consecutive years is just a testament to his talent and his, progression, I would say, because even as great as Seth Lugo was last year, even as great as Michael Wacha was, it felt like a no-brainer that Cole Ragans, you want that lefty starting in the first game against the Cleveland Guardians, right, Jeremy? Like, it just didn't seem like a race at all.
The thing that's interesting to me is that I think most Royals fans, certainly I assumed Cole Ragans was going to be the opening day starter. That's kind of a role that you get and you hold until you can't, you know? And so what's kind of weird is that they were treating it like a competition, and like Seth Lugo had a real shot to earn that, because I feel like that would have been more of a shot at Cole Ragans than a promotion of Seth Lugo, if that makes sense. I'm not using the right words, but I'm close, I hope. Where it's like, if I'm Cole Ragans and I was the opening day starter last year and I put up the year I put up, and then you're like, yeah, well, now you're the number 2 guy, to a guy who was also here last year. That would hurt me
Yeah,
more
as
than
it should.
if I was Seth Lugo and I was like, well, I was the number 2 starter last year and I pitched pretty good. Oh, and now I'm the opening day starter. Okay. Like, as Seth Lugo, I wouldn't be as excited about that as I would be upset about it if I was Cole Ragans. So I'm glad that Cole Ragans is still the starter. I think it's the right call. because I think Cole Ragans has, I think Seth Lugo is more likely to take a step back than Cole Ragans is.
Mhm.
So, not because I think Lugo isn't for real, I just think he's another year older and he was not young when he signed his contract.
Nope, he was not.
And that's just father time catches up with all of us. Of course, I've also assumed Salvi was going to get worse someday, and he gets better every year somehow.
Maybe he has the solution.
Maybe.
I will say the last three Royals pitchers to have consecutive opening day starts: Zach Greinke in 23 and 22, Andy Duffy in 18 and 17, and then James Shields in 13 and 14. Not terrible company. I would say. I get it's easy to forget about Danny Duffy because he was our only hope there for a long, long while, but he was still a pretty good pitcher during his peak, I will say. So hope for the best for Cole, but also we got the announcement of who the Royals will be facing off against for the Guardians. Tanner Bybee is going to be getting the opening day nod for Cleveland. Jeremy, when I brought this up before we started recording the podcast, we were talking about like who has the edge where, and it seems like, okay, the Royals fairly clearly have the starting rotation edge through the first 3 games of the season, but you also made a point that the Royals should have the batting edge as well. Can you elaborate a little bit on that?
We've talked about this before, but before Vinny Pasquantino got hurt, the Royals were, I think they were 5th or 6th in MLB in runs. That was a good offense somehow. Like, it never felt like it should be, but it was. And I attributed that kind of to Pasquantino, Witt, and Salvi were pretty dang consistent, and then 1 or 2 other guys would show up. And now they've added Jonathan India, whereas the Guardians got rid of Andres Jimenez, who is not a great hitter, but he was a stable hitter in their lineup, gave it like a 80 something WRC plus, and was a very good defender. And they replaced him with not anybody who hits any better. And then traded away Josh Naylor and signed Carlos Santana. Now, if Carlos Santana hits as well as he did last year for the Twins, then it won't be much of a downgrade at first base, but it would still be a downgrade. And assuming that Carlos Santana at age
39?
39, yeah, I think that's right. I was just gonna look it up before I said it. My internet's gonna be slow now.
Of course.
Whatever age he is, he's old. Assuming that he's going to be as good this year as he was last year, feels like he's 38 years, 11 months, and 11 days right now. So, yeah.
I was rounding up.
Yeah. That's a lot to ask of a guy. And even last year, like I said, even if he hit as well this year as he did last year, he's not as good as Josh Naylor.
No, he's not. Naylor had a pretty underrated season.
The Guardians' offense got worse. The Guardians' offense got worse, and the Royals' offense got better, and was better than we thought it was last year. And if MJ Melendez's swing works out, if Hunter Renfroe's new diet and exercise program works out, then the offense can be even better. Michael Massey's going to be healthy to start the year where he wasn't last year. So there's a lot of reason to think that the Royals are the better team, at least when it comes to rotation and lineup. The Guardians might have the edge of the bullpen, but it's, again, closer than it was last year, with the Royals now have Ursac and Estevez and Hunter Harvey, for that matter, at the back of their bullpen that they didn't have last year when they were facing the Guardians for most of the season.
That's a good point. And I will say I was surprised to see, because you said that, I was like, well, I mean, maybe the numbers back this up. Maybe I'm really underestimating this. And to your credit, the Zips full season projections do have the Royals scoring the 14th most runs per game, which isn't otherworldly. It's not amazing, but it's more than the Guardians. That's all you got to do. They're a couple of notches above the Guardians.
In that comparison, that's all you got to do. Yes.
And I don't know, we still haven't seen a substantial body of work from this lineup with having Jonathan India as the leadoff man. That is
going to make a huge difference.
I think it is.
It's worth repeating, because this is something we haven't talked about really a lot since they first traded for him. I think Jonathan India was a decent hitter in Cincinnati. I think he's going to be a very good hitter in Kansas City, because the big knock on him is he doesn't have home run power. Well, guess what? You don't got to hit home runs to be good in Kauffman. Kauffman rewards you for trying to hit singles, doubles, and triples. Well, if that's what Jonathan India wants to hit, That'll work out great. He'll be on base all the time in front of Bobby Witt Jr., Vinny Pasquantino, and Salvador Perez. And that'll work. That'll be great. And it will be whatever he does is going to be significantly better than what they got from the leadoff spot last year.
Couldn't be much worse. I'll tell you that much, Jeremy. And yeah, this was another thing that the broadcast pointed out. I was like, oh yeah, that's a good point. Not saying any of the leadoff guys for the Royals last year were slow, but it is worth noting India's not going to slow down Bobby either, if you know what I mean. He's not you want Bobby to use that tool as much as he can. And I'm sure Bobby will be nipping India's heels as he's coming across home plate, but that's still okay. He's not holding the team back. So I'm very excited. I know tonight's lineup is it looks like a righty heavy regular season lineup. India, Witt, Pasquantino, Perez, Melendez, Renfroe, Fermin, Garcia, Blanco. Like that's very much a may need all the righties in the lineup sort of lineup for a manager Maquachero. So I'm excited to watch that because that will be on TV tonight as well.
Yeah, but not until 9:00 our time.
I know it's gonna be late.
Blanco's in center field too, which I find to be very interesting.
Well, I mean,
that is not a position they had any interest in him playing last year.
No, they did not. And he has the speed to make up for some poor jumps and poor routes. But yeah, I would hope to see some more polish from Blanco, especially people forget about he is an older player and he had a lot. Yeah, I think he's still 31. He probably turns 32 at some point this year, but he just defected later on in life, but he still had a lot of professional ball time there in Cuba. Jeremy, what else hey, I forgot about the Powder Blues. And
Powder Blues.
I wanted to get your thoughts on that. So if
I
you
am potentially the only Royals fan who just doesn't care.
Really?
Don't care. I have no nostalgic feelings about the Powder Blues. They're fine. My nostalgia is for the Black and Blues that so many people hate, including, I guess, you.
Yes.
I always forget if you hate them or not. Yeah, that's where my nostalgia is for the Black and Blues. We're probably never going to see those again outside of MLB The Show, where they're in MLB The Show, and that always makes me happy when I manage to get my hand on some Black and Blues. But yeah, that's what I like, are the Black and Blues. The Powder Blues, that's fine. I'm not madly in love with them. I don't hate them. Powder Blues look a lot better on the Royals than they do on the Cardinals or the Phillies. I've never understood those Powder Blues.
Mm-hmm.
Powder blue and red do not mix, my friends.
No,
so
not at all.
What are we doing? But yeah, that's all I got. The white hats and helmets are going to be interesting, though.
I think they will be as well, because I thought I was in the minority for. I didn't really mind the white caps because I really liked that throwback logo. That's one of my favorite logos from the Royals, and I think you can't have. I don't think you could have a darker shade of blue on top of your head. I think that's a little bit more off-putting than people are thinking. But if you want to make your opinion known, there is a poll up on royalsreview.com with the article announcing it. Right now, that's sitting at 47% for love both. Meanwhile, the option love the uniforms, not a fan of the hat, sitting at 46%. There's 5 votes separating the two. So pretty split. And yeah, I like the powder blue on powder blue.
I guess I gotta just say I don't like white, period. I've never when the Chiefs are playing, I'm like, all reds. That's my look, baby. I do not wear white ever. And so obviously teams, white is a home team color that almost every team has.
Yeah.
It feels weird to mix it with the powder blues in that way, but I also can't I'm not gonna hate on it either. It doesn't look awful. It does look a little weird, but again, it's something we'll get used to the same way we did the QT patches and the logos on the helmets.
Yeah. We got used. I got used to that pretty dang quick, I will say. So for the full details on this, the Royals are going to be wearing the powder blue on powder blues every Saturday home game this year. They also have some ticket promotion that goes along with it. I only bring that up because if you use that promotion, I think you get like an exclusive Salvi bobblehead. And I know there's quite a few bobblehead heads out there. So they are also going to wear them on opening day, March 27th against the Guardians.
I think if I'm remembering correctly, that the Royals City Connects should expire after this season. We should
I
get some
believe
new
so.
City Connects next year. So that could be fun.
It would be. And
Something I'm looking forward to, see what they
I
can come up with.
I think the City Connects have been getting better more consistently, if you will.
There are some City Connects that are just so good. I tell you what, Powder Blue, the Powder Blue Brewers City
Yeah.
Connects, those are some sweet unis.
Yes.
There are some other really good ones. I love the Padres ones, though. I think they're retiring those this year
I believe so. Yeah.
and bringing on some new ones. I love the Rays City Connect. I think I have some Rays City Connect gear somewhere around my house. Just
Love it that much, huh?
yeah, I was like, man, I love the street and the graffiti, like the colorful graffiti. That I dig that aesthetic, man. Obviously, I don't think that would really work for the Royals. Doesn't really fit the city of Kansas City, but I'm still excited. I think you're right. I think the uniforms have been getting better and better as we go on. So I'm looking forward to seeing what comes next.
Well, I also say that with some recency bias. I just sent you the link so you could look at it. So the Houston Astros just revealed their City Connect uniforms 2.0, like the second iteration of theirs.
They
And
had pretty solid first iteration.
they did. They really did. I think this new set, though, this new kit is even better. This is just it feels
yeah.
throwback in all the right ways.
Oh,
It
yeah.
still connects to the locality. So I'm hopeful that
It's nice and clean.
it is. It's very clean.
love-
It's very nice.
The arm bands, the sleeve bands. Oh yeah, that's nice.
I
And
love
the
it.
star logo, that is the harkening back to the classic Astros. Yeah, that's good stuff.
Yeah, man. I'm all here for it. So hey, I'm not a no design team anywhere, but I already liked the first City Connect uniforms from the Royals. I know I was really surprised to hear about fans not liking it, but I'm excited to see what we get in 2.0.
Pretty meh on them myself.
Yeah, they're not for everyone. I like them though. Let's see here. I don't think I'm missing anything else on the Royals. If you want daily Royals stuff, you can go check out royalsreview.com, or I also highly suggest putting out the rumblings. I had to do the rumblings very, very early Wednesday morning. I think I clicked schedule at like 2 a.m. my time Wednesday. And there's a lot of people talking about the Royals, both good and bad. I thought it was cool that like on social media, we're getting some of the Royals players talking about what their walk-up songs are going to be. We also got the Fangraphs is putting out their power rankings for positional things, and I know we've been kind of reacting to that as it goes, but there hasn't really been a surprise, I would say. Of course, shortstop number one, baby, for the Royals. So very, very excited to see that. Jeremy, am I missing anything else right now?
I just wanted to point out something I was reading this morning that's not really Royals related, but it is baseball related. The Giants sold 10% of their ownership stake to, what's the term for that kind of business?
Private equity firm?
To a private equity. And the big takeaway from that, more than anything, is that the owner came out and said, this money is not going to any on-field product. This is improving some of the Giants' buildings, but also his own real estate investments.
Yeah, in the immediate area.
And he's hoping that will generate more income that he will then spend on players. And I'm just like, so we're just admitting that this is not about improving the baseball team. This is about improving your profitability. Okay, cool. I do have to give credit that Oracle Park there in San Francisco is a completely privately funded stadium. There was no public money used in the construction of that stadium, so I have to give them some credit for that. But it sounds like they're getting their public money another way.
Yeah, I guess so. And we're only a few years removed from the arson judge era there in San Francisco. It just seems like that franchise can't go anywhere positive anytime soon, unfortunately. You don't remember that? So it was, hold on, I'm going to look it up just to make sure I don't get it wrong. So let's see here. John Heyman, that guy, New York Post. So he misspelled Aaron Judge's first name. when he put out a tweet saying that Judge was leaning towards signing a deal with the San Francisco Giants. Yeah. So it was, you were seeing this big news. It was like, hey, one of the best sluggers of our era is thinking about switching coasts, going from New York to San Francisco. And we can't even spell his name right. And I know John Heyman's had a few flubs since then as well. I'm not perfect either, but it was just it was a big moment, and there's a big old spotlight on it. And it's still kind of a joke in some baseball corners, I would say.
Also, I think I have to give some credit to the Giants because they're not the Athletics, for one
Right.
thing. They signed Willie Adames this offseason. They had Carlos Correa signed at one point until the medicals came back. The outfielder, I cannot remember his name.
Jung-Hoo Lee, I believe is how.
Jung-Hoo Lee. Matt Chapman.
Yeah, he signed an extension.
Money on, so they're not spending money in San Francisco, but like even an owner who spends money is still like, I'm gonna take this money and use it for myself, y'all. Even though it was money spent on the baseball team. Yeah, it's just it is.
Yeah. Yep. That's all we can say about it. A couple of other nuggets that I forgot about. Friend of the podcast and former Royals pitcher Richard Lovelady had his contract selected by the Toronto Blue Jays. So congratulations to him. And then also in one of the most unexpected turns of the offseason, do you remember Matt Sauer? You remember that guy? A 7+ ERA was, couldn't even really succeed in mop-up duty. The Los Angeles Dodgers selected his contract. Can you believe that?
There was a reason the Royals drafted him in the Rule 5 draft. He just wasn't ready. Maybe he's ready now.
Shoot, just watch him go and be a lockdown middle relief guy for them. That would be crazy, but also very on par for the Royals, i.e. Carlos Santana in 2021. All right, Jeremy, I don't have anything else. Like I said, I'm still just really excited for opening day. I'm ready for, after they leave Arizona, we should get the finalized opening day roster. Then we go down and we have those exhibition games against the Rangers, polish things up, and come back to Kauffman Stadium to start off the year. That's also something that hold on, I'm going to go off on a tangent a little bit. I think Royals fans don't truly appreciate how nice it is to have the season opener at home so often. I really don't think that they appreciate that. I think it's like 9 out of the last 11 opening days for the Royals have been at Kauffman Stadium. That's just a great way to start off the year, and you really feel the pomp and circumstance that is starting the year, kind of on your turf, I think is the best way to put it. So if you can get out for opening day, I would highly suggest it. They have a ton of stuff going on leading up to the game, and you're going to see the best the Royals have to offer right now put out on that field. And that's pretty damn good if you ask me.
Absolutely.
Alrighty, Jeremy, you got a review for me today? All right, what you got?
So late last week, I finished up the latest Like a Dragon game, Like a Dragon Pirate Yakuza in Hawaii, which I was very much looking forward to. Unfortunately, it is probably my least favorite of all the Like a Dragon Yakuza games. It was still really good. It just didn't have the depth that the other games, even the other spin-offs, have had. So in some ways, it might be a good starting point for some people just to kind of dip their toes into it. But also I was, I wanted a little bit more from it than I got. It was maybe more of a me problem, but it was still a lot of fun. There was a lot of there was several extremely good moments in it, and I can't wait to see what else RGG Studios puts out.
All right. I like it. I've got a pretty simple review today as well. So I review a lot of books here, and I tend to lean towards reading more nonfiction, baseball related stuff, just see what's out there because I'm really behind the curve on that genre. But I also kind of need fluff books sometimes. So I punched into Goodreads. I wanted to find something like Indiana Jones. I don't know why. I was on a kick for I want archaeological thriller with some academia and life or death, that sort of stuff. Found a book called The Last Templar. It was released back in 2006. It's a novel. It's got everything that you want for something like Indiana Jones. It's an FBI agent and an archaeologist going all around the world with cat and mouse games and a killer chasing them, stuff like that. It was very enjoyable, I would say. like not gonna bang the table for a movie or a TV show about it or nothing. It was a good read to kind of cleanse my palate from nonfiction stuff. So I always suggest going out of your normal reading rut if you feel like you're in one. Alrighty, Jeremy. Well, I think that's going to do it for today. I appreciate all y'all listeners who are still with us. Thank you for tuning in. Appreciate your support. I already rattled off how you can support us, but if you missed it, make sure you subscribe or follow the podcast wherever you're tuning in from. You can also follow along with us down in the links in the podcast description below. But the best spot to find our work, find our voice, and find other Royals fans is at royalsreview.com. So, from myself, Jacob Milham, from them, Jeremy Greco, thank you so much for joining us today. And until next time, go Royals!